What's up, brothers and sisters? It's your brother G World 7_D. Here's the book America's the True Old World Move Discover. On the front cover now you'll see uh, the Grand Canyon, and then you'll see some of them are named Shiva Temple, Isis Temple, Cheops Temple. Alright, and you also got some called Osiris and Horus. Now, when you look at the Grand Canyon, it was natural geological rock, but the ancestors were able to carve into the rock. They had the technology and the tools to do that. Now, this is the book written by brother Amenhotep Chavez El Bey. He has some good stuff up in here. We're going to start off right here. We need to understand this now. He goes on right here to mention real quick. Scholars like Dr. Ben, Dr. Jeremy Clark, Dr. Giop, Dr. Van Sertima, and etc. were wrong about Africa being the birthplace of civilization. Well, first of all, this is what they were taught at the time, because they did not have access to the tools and resources that we have now to make the discoveries that is in this book. He goes on, Pan-Africanism, which is now a religion, is a concept that was given to us by accredited Western academics like Harvard, Negro scholars who got it all wrong, because the Americas is Atlantis, which is the mother country of Egypt. Okay, he talks about this book will prove that America is the true old world, and that the Mayan Indians civilized the Egyptians, the Indians, and the Sumerians. Pan-Africanism is a dead religion that has the so-called African Americans, blackamoors, associated with slavery. It has the Berber Indians associated with coming from Lucy, the A. It has the Berber Indians associated with the struggle of a third world country. And Pan-Africanism has made Berber Indians abandon our land rights to everywhere except for Africa, because you have been taught to believe that Berber Indians only come from Africa. He goes on. I can go on and on about how destructive Pan-African is to Berber Indians in the Americas, but I am not here to talk about our cousins in Africa. Yes. All right. Let's go on even further with this book, because this is something I said it needs to be talked about. Here it is. The oldest pyramids and the most pyramids are in the Americas. The oldest and biggest pyramids are in the Americas. The Cholula Pyramid is the biggest pyramid in the world because its dimensions are 400 by 400 meters and has a total volume of 4.45 million cubic meters, almost twice that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Right. The Cholula Pyramid is also a step pyramid, so we are dealing with a very ancient pyramid, because step pyramids was the first pyramids. You hear about in Egypt, the first pyramids were step pyramids, and then later on they would smooth them out. Well, you have a bunch of step pyramids here in America. All right. The pyramids in the Americas are all step pyramids, which were the first pyramids. According to Egyptologists, the step pyramids in Saqqara was the pyramid of Djoser, is the first pyramid that Egyptians built, dated around 2667 to 2648 BC, the third dynasty, which is over 4,700 years ago. Egyptologists agree that the step pyramid of Saqqara, the pyramid of Djoser, was the first pyramid, because they agree that it is the archetype of all pyramids. You have more pyramids in North America than all of Egypt combined. All right. Now, if we include the pyramids in Central and South America, it's not even a contest anymore as far as who has the most pyramids between East or the West, because the West, the Americas, clearly has more pyramids. You see the little step pyramids. You see the pyramid in Mexico. Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan, Tehuti, Tehuti, That's Tehuti. All right. It's Carol Supe, South America. Machu Picchu, Peru. All right. He goes, and I'm gonna read this right here. It says the oldest mummies. The America has the oldest mummies. All right. The Spirit Cave mummy from Spirit Cave, Fallon, Nevada, which is 9,400 years old. Spirit Cave mummy is the oldest mummy in the world, and it is in the Americas. Additionally, we also have the Chinchorro mummies in South America, North Chile. These mummies are over 7,000 years old. All right. This archaeological anthropological evidence demonstrates that the Americas is the true old world. Scholars should be looking in America for the oldest civilization because the oldest mummies are in Americas. Their scientific approach on where to look should be completely opposite, based upon all the evidence of the Americas being the old world. All right. Here it is. This one. The Mayans civilized the Egyptians. All right. The Mayans civilized the Egyptians. Here's this one right here. He goes on. He takes from an article from the Kansas City Journal. After correlating all data that has been made public to the present time, the conclusion is unavoidable that the oldest civilization was in the Yucatan in Central America. Further discoveries may change this conclusion. It seems that Egypt was the first people by immigrants from the Yucatan. Space will allow only a few facts that clearly indicate the truth of his assertion. First, the pyramids of the Yucatan are, some of them, much larger than any found in Egypt. That of Cheops not accepted. Second, the pyramids of Egypt bear structural evidence of having been modeled on those of the Yucatan, notably of the one at Coloma, which covers 23 acres. Third, the early Egyptians and the Mayas of the Yucatan had the same system of reckoning time, but the Mayas developed a system that was far superior and which antedated that of Egypt. Fourth, the Mayans manufactured in cement that was of the same material as that of ancient Egypt. They manufactured a cement. Damn. Fifth, the architecture of Yucatan is of the same general type as that of ancient Egypt, but it is finer and seems to have been a model that the Egyptians attempted to imitate. 6. The art of both countries, as displayed in their ceramics and architecture, is of the same type or school, that the Yucatan being more highly developed. Excuse me. All right. According to one of these traditions, a portion of the Mayas, about 40,000 years ago, rebelled against the ruling king and finally withdrew to the north. This branch seems to have passed along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico and to have reached Louisiana in the lower Mississippi Valley between 30,000 and 35,000 years ago. A few years ago, some caissons were sunk for bridge piers on Bayou La Fourche, Louisiana. At the depth of about 62 feet, some graves were uncovered. They have been made on the sandy beach of the Gulf of Mexico and have been covered with oyster shells. All right, remember the oldest pyramids over in Brazil are made out of seashells. Okay, this says oyster shells. The present coast is about 110 miles from that point. The average thickness of the freshwater mud, so far as surveyed, is not less than 40 feet from this point to the Gulf Coast. Taking the average amount of solid matter mud that has annually passed down the Mississippi River to form these delta and Gulf plain, and we have a measuring unit. United States government observations made daily since 1872, if I remember correctly, give an annual amount of 57,872,000 cubic yards per year. By this unit, these graves are at least 29,000 years old. From the lower Mississippi, these people spread over much of the central portions of North American continent, especially throughout the valleys of the Ohio and Mississippi and the Lake region. I see how they travel. I mentioned that before, how they travel. They use the waterways. They seem to have been the original mound builders. Of course they were. All right? Of course they were. All right? And then I can go on even further. I'm going to go even further and read this. And I'm going to go here. 1 second. I'm going to go here. Let's see. Oh, we had something about Hatshepsut, but I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go here because I want to read this part because this is something that is going to really connect that brothers and sisters need to understand because we've been too highly brainwashed. I'm going to read this real quick. All right. Let's read this part real quick because this needs to be said. Here we go right here. In just a second, because I'm trying to find out the exact page. to read this one because it connects Americas, Asia, and here. Oh, by the way, I want to show you this picture of an ancient American. All right. It says, "This is a Moor king of the Orient, or the Orient." Okay, it's glaring. The palm trees indicate the Americas. The bow and arrow and the feathers is a custom of the Moors, Berber Indians from the Americas. Remember I showed you that brother from Florida the other day? He had something like them cuff slings. Well, he had them kind of like on his legs, little gold around on his legs. Right here. The braces like over on his legs, near his knees. This is sort of like similar. You ever see the little feather around here, and little necklace, and like the crown with the little headband and feathers, and then like the little sun disc right here. Interesting. All right. Go on and read this even further. All right, I'm gonna read this even further because this needs to be said right here. The other book I had was written by Katanga Bongo, I believe. He talks about this, and he's an African dude. He talks about how the original civilizations were in Americas, not Africa. All right, but I'm gonna go on and go to this page right here. I had the information right in front of my face. Then you end up losing it, you know. But and I want to give you this information too, because this stuff is just so much of this information is right there in your face. But unfortunately, we've been so brainwashed to be that we just slaves from Africa. But here's another image I want to read real quick. All right, let's go. Okay, here it is. This is good right here. India Superior is the oldest civilization. All right, and it goes on right here. It talks about how Gene Matlock, in his book India Once Ruled the Americas, explains that the Sanskrit roots of vocabulary, even the tribal names of many North and South American Indians. It seems that the Native Americans really are, at least some significant degree, either Indian descent or greatly influenced by Indians. The Mayas were the Nagas that took the serpent wisdom from the Americas and into India, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. You know, evidence to support this fact can be found in the book Queen Mu and Egyptian Sphinx, which I'm gonna talk about that book at another time. All right. Let me go even further. Because there's something that I want to read off of here that I have on here that I really want to read to home into my point on the fact that America is the true old world. Okay. Yeah, here it is right here. This is what I want to read right here. All right. Right here it has this. You can see it. Man, I'm gonna try to get it clear. Okay, it is. Islam was in America and had big influence on America because you have a total of 565 names, 484 in America and 81 in Canada, of villages, towns, cities, mountains, lakes, rivers, etc. Okay. Etymologically, Arabic, which were designated by locals long before arrival of Columbus. Many of these names are in fact the names of Islamic places. Okay, here's Mecca in Indiana, Medina in Idaho, Medina in New York, Medina in Hazen in North Dakota, Medina in Ohio, Medina in Tennessee. You can say Tallahassee, Medina in Texas, Medina and Arva in Ontario, Mohammed in Illinois, Mona in Utah/Utah are just a few noticeable names at the outset. A closer analysis of the names of native tribes will immediately reveal their Arabic etymological ancestry. Anasazi, Apache, Arawak, Arcana, Chauvin, Cherokee, Cree, Hohokam, Hoopa, Hopi, Maka, Mohican, Mohawk, Nazca, Zulu, and Zuni are only a few. Yes, Islam was everywhere in Americas. One of them just has to look for it because you can see the evidence of Queen Khalifa, California, to Alabama, 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 okay, to Tallahassee, 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 to Medina, Ohio, to Moorestown, New Jersey, to Islamorada, Florida, and to Alhambra, California. So yes, Muslims have left a big impact on America. What happened to the Berber Saracens Muslims of Americas? Well, have you heard of the Spanish Inquisition v. the Dumb Diverses of 1452, issued by the Pope, authorizing Christians to enslave Saracens and non-believers and to take their lands because no one disappeared? It is just that everyone has become ignorant. There are over 500 cities and towns in the United States named after Muslims, and a huge part of Europe as well. The textbooks, history, his story, and education of today are all manipulated. Therefore, Western academics will not get us out of our deep sleep because Western academics is the institution that has put we the people, Lenape Moors, Washita, to sleep to begin with. All right, now here's a picture of a Cherokee chief, a Muslim Cherokee chief. Look at his brother. Ramahan Abiyanwati. In 1866, during the Civil War, the last leader of the Cherokee Nation was a Muslim. Look at that Negro with the turban in his head. Look at that Negro, man. Look at that Negro. Look at that Negro, man. This is so obvious, man. This is so obvious it's in your face. Now, I'm going to go to the, read on. This is the last thing I'm going to read here. Because I really want to emphasize this now. This is the last thing I want to read. We're going to bring this home. All right? We're going to bring this home. All right? America was one of the last of the three Indies, three Ethiopias to be civilized. The ancient Indians did not come from Africa. They came from the Americas, which is the true Orient, East, Asia Minor, Asia proper, because the capital was in India Superior. And then they migrated into Asia Minor, Hindustan, and then into Africa. In fact, here is more evidence that civilization started in South America and went into Africa via South American Indians, Mayas. And evidence that Americas is the old world, the East. Okay, according to the book Civilization in Ancient Egyptian, written by Katanga Abango, the South American Indians had introduced civilization to Africa. I showed you that book before. Thereby making Africa the second continent in the world to be civilized. Spurred on by their South American Indian guests, the Africans built great empires that lasted for several thousand years at a time. Contrary to popular myth in the Western world, the advent of Europeans destroyed civilization in Africa rather than made it. If India, Maya Indians, is not the mother civilization of Egypt, you remember, I'm going to go on. I ain't going to mention that in this one. If India, Maya Indians, is not the mother civilization Egypt, which it was, the India and Egypt existed at the same time. Egypt is not older than India. In fact, India was more advanced than Egypt was, according to architecture of both civilizations. Evidence of the fact that Egypt and India existed at the same time can be found in in the Grand Canyon. In Phoenix, Arizona, which is the Ptah territory, Utah territory. Yes, they found Egyptian hieroglyphics and temples dedicated to the worship of Shiva, Isis, Cheops, etc. in the Grand Canyon. Okay, notice that there is a Shiva temple right by the Egyptian temples. You also see that over in Canada, where you have Olmec-style heads, along with image of the Minoan snake goddess, and a carving statue of Buddha in Alberta, Canada. All right, those images also in Canada too. All right, those images in Canada too. So you can even tell that all three of these temples were once Indian-style step pyramids, temples. The truth is, all the architecture art was. These temple step pyramids are older than anything in Africa. The oldest pyramid in Africa is the step pyramid of Djoser, which is 4,700 years ago. These step pyramids are so old that the elements have them in ruins, and it has to be taken a lot longer than 4,700 years for these Indian-style pyramids to be in such ruins. And you look at the doggone structures over in Alberta, Canada, that stuff, you can tell is very old and is really deteriorating. But it's extremely old. Those Olmec style heads in Canada. All right, let me go on to say this. Let me just go on to read this. All right, because I want to. Well, I said that would be last, but I wanted to finish it up right here real quick. And let's see. I'm gonna finish it up right here real quick. It says right here where he talks about Mesoamerica is the real Mesopotamia and the real Babylon, Sumer culture, because they have found thousands of Sumerian artifacts in Americas, North, South, and Central America. All right, and I'm going further right here. I'm gonna go further down. Right here is this is good. So I can end it right here. Nova Scotia, New Scotland, was in Canada. Canada, aka Canaanland, Nova Scotia was also called Acada, as in a city in ancient Sumer. Nova Scotia, aka Acadia, was also Amaruka, America, because the Acadia National Park, which covers Maine and New England states, is in America. Maine and New England territory has a rich Viking Danish history, and that area was also called Nova France, New France. Nova Scotia was also called France. So we have a strong connection, and even found a 1580 map of America. All right. He goes on to say, yes. He goes on to say right here, yes. The original French were Franks, Clanross, Russ Andros, and they were French Moors, Blackamoors, aka Berbers, Merovingians. This also explains why you have a French quarters in Louisiana, and they also refer to themselves as Acadians. All right, and I'm gonna end it right there. Just to state this is a pretty good book. America's a True Old World. This is one volume book. This is Moo Discovered, but it's so much valuable information in this book, as well as in other books. But this one I'm going to refer to. This is my brother, so I'm going to give him a little shout out. This is an exceptional book because I pretty much knew all this stuff, and yeah, he mentions Horace Butler, which Horace Butler talks about America's being the old world. You know, America's being the old world. America is the old world. But unfortunately, you have people, and I always mention them, who just going to attack you and say that you're African, and by you not saying that you're African, that you feel ashamed of being who the hell you are. And that's not true. Our people are waking up, man. They're starting to learn our true history, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a real beautiful thing, man. So, brothers and sisters, continue to search and seek that knowledge. The information's out there, but you're going to have to really look for it and search for it. And there's a few things up in here that I wanted to read, But I just wanted to get this little video done because it needs to get done. And there's some other stuff that I want to read on here because it connects some more stuff about the black people here and black ancient Sumer um, and Egypt. And it talks about how he mentions also in his book how Maya, you have a Mayan temple in Egypt. In the Mayan temple in Egypt, he's dressed as an Egyptian. But over in the Americas, he's dressed as a Mayan. So basically, he's coming to bring that knowledge over from the Americas, coming across the Atlantic Ocean, traveling through the Atlantic Ocean, through the tumultuous Atlantic Ocean, and over to Egypt, and giving them the wisdom and being a spiritual priest and a spiritual teacher. America is the old world, and until we really sit down and truly do our research and really study this information, you're going to be continue to be misinformed. Listen to people like Umar Johnson, Sarah Subaseti, the Amara Squad, because they are clowns. Angel Miss Jordan, the Juicy Chick, these idiots, man. They do not know real history, and unfortunately, they're not going to try to attempt to study real history. I showed you a real picture of Hernandez de Soto. He was a Negro, man. Mulatto at best, being towards white. Mulatto at best. A lot of those black, actually, a lot of those people who come from Europe, the conquistadors were Negroes. All right, they were straight up black people, man, and they had a different mindset from other black people. They viewed themselves as different, even though they were black, but they viewed themselves as different. And I mean, a lot of those clowns came over here and caused hell. Not all the black Europeans did that. All right, some of them came over here. They always kept a sort of like a spiritual connection and a knowledge connection to the brothers and sisters over here. And they, as you know, a lot of them came over here in later times, mixed with the black people over here. So I just want to give you that message. This is G World. Peace and love. I'm out.